Good evening. Welcome to Diatribes from the Voice of Doom. And now for a post-mortem, here comes your host, the Voice of Doom. Evening, everybody. I'd like to propose a toast to the end of the war. Here's to victory. And that's what everybody seems to be feeling right now. And I'm disgusted. And I'm disgusted with many outlets and tribes, because they're going to sweep it all under the rug, just like I said. And I don't have any notes today for this episode. I don't have any info or dates. I will say this was a date that will live in infamy, but it wasn't quite as dramatic as I had foreseen. For one thing, when August 31st, they said August 31st, they meant August 31st. So at midnight, when August 31st came, there was no troops in Afghanistan. None. And from what I saw from the footage of this morning, Afghanistan time, there was nobody at the airport either. They weren't still standing around in the sewer waiting to get a plane out of there. So I don't think regular flights are quite up yet. I don't know if the ticket counters are quite open. But I was disgusted with the post-mortem and almost the absolvement, a petri dish of putrefied excrement of a diseased jackal, because the war is over. And every time the war is over, we're supposed to be celebratory because the war is finally over. And in World War II, they celebrated very highly when the war was over, because it was a hell of a frickin' war. And it was a real war. We declared war, and we bombed the crap out of everybody. Everybody bombed everybody, except America. America got bombed once, and it was a big one. It's always big in America. We didn't get bombed over and over. We didn't have to go to air shelters or air raid shelters. We got our whole damn Pacific Fleet blown up at the beginning of World War II. That was a good way to start. So it's always nice to have the celebration at the end of the war. And I was doing some research because I did a play on the end of the war, kind of. It was a war. It wasn't about war. It was a thing that took place in the 40s in Japan. And I was checking out what happened when the war ended. Did you know that, it's not a lot by war standards, but 20 people died celebrating the end of the war. Just doing stupid things or whatever, getting hit by a car, just, getting too drunk and falling off a pier, whatever. I don't know how. Maybe fights. They might have gotten into fights because they were excited, they were exuberant, and they went overboard, and 20 people died celebrating the end of World War II. Probably more than that, but I just read that. It's interesting to me. Because why go to all that trouble, put your life on the line, get shot at? I don't think they got much sleep. I don't know how they slept. I don't think about these guys out in the jungles of, Guam or Midway or wherever they were, Iwo Jima, and getting any sleep. Even if you could sleep, the bombs are going off all the time. So they must have been racked. They must have been fit to be tied and tired and just exhausted. And finally the war's over and 20 of them die just from celebrating. Now, I just said that as a preface just to add a little color to my dismay, because everybody on the news was kind of like it was an honorable ending to the war. And they're still doing the same damn thing I said in the first few episodes in History of War about tying in the warrior with the reasons we fight the war. And they're doing it. They can't put down anything about what happened, because that would be putting down the warrior. And That would be dishonorable to the 13. Now, if you want the 13 to be honored, I would think the best thing you could do is make sure that Afghanistan doesn't turn into another Cambodia times 10 or 20, which it's going to do, and it's going to be worse. So I think that would be a great way to honor those 13 that were really selfless, because they were kind of in the middle of a mess, and they were trying to get people out, and they didn't know who the hell they were dealing with, and I know they didn't. So come on, don't even try to say that there was any kind of order. They just started putting people out and counted the numbers so that Petri dish could say, we got 5,500 people out in 5 days, aren't we great? And even places like F News are saying, yeah, it was great the way he did that. And I think people are going to, if it weren't for the 13, then people would probably let this whole thing go. But I don't know what's the 13. Well, they're already sliding it under the rug. You can already tell by their attitude that they'll be talking about Katrina now, or not Katrina, they'll be talking about Ida now, and they'll be talking about, the border crisis, and maybe there's terrorists because of the aftermath of this other thing. But they're not going to go back to Afghanistan because the airport's empty. And if there's no focal point to concentrate on where there might be a hot spot, whatever, I'm a little upset. I can't come up with all the glib things I usually can. But if there's not a hot spot or a place of focus like the airport, the Hamid Karzai airport, which there was a lot of fodder there. There was people standing in sewers. There were people trying to get through gates. There were explosions. There were, terrorists protecting the people from the American. I mean, I don't know. Letting people through, deciding who's going to go through, who's not. And people getting killed all over the place. We're not going to hear about that, and that's the problem. That's why I don't want to hear these guys talking about an honorable, and it's good that the war's over. Everybody wanted the war to be over. Well, when's the war going to be over in Japan? Because by the standards of ending a war, you take out every single troop out of the area. That's ending the war. Then when are we going to end the war in Japan? When are we going to end the war with Germany? Okay? I mean, do you guys get it? We could have kept people there. We could have kept things the way they were going. It wasn't a war. And to say to take everybody out, we've ended the war, hallelujah, John Lennon, happy Christmas, war is over, is just saying we're going to have another Cambodia, but we're not going to really worry about it because that's their problem. And I'm not going to let that happen, because I've seen enough footage from Afghanistan to see girls that are 6 years old and they're walking along with their parents and they're skipping along happy-go-lucky, just like any family you'd see in America or England or France or New Zealand or anywhere else. Just a 6-year-old girl that is happy and knows nothing about what's going on, and I am worried about her. Do you understand? She's grown up thinking that everything's normal in McDonald's and all this other stuff. And her world may be turned totally upside down, or it may be turned upside down in a way that we don't want to think about it. Dean Koontz doesn't want to think about it. We're talking about going from a loving family's arms to being the bride of some bearded idiot who smells. And you're 7 years old. Who knows what they do and who knows what they will do? But I see these people in this footage. I don't look at the soldiers with the guns. I don't look at the Taliban on their Humvees that they got from America, or carrying the AK-47s that they got from America, or the night vision goggles that they're trying on and checking out how it works, and they probably look at the sun with it because they're really bright. I don't look at that. I look at the girl who's walking with her parents thinking everything's sunny. And it really upsets me because I don't like to see hope dash like that. And when you do it on a global level, you're dashing a lot of hope, and that hope turns into hate. Just came up with that just now. It's pretty good for my condition. Hope turns into hate because we dashed it. And I don't know, when you dash hope, you got to be pretty resilient to keep on hoping or have faith or forgive. I mean, some people do, but I just don't like their attitude. I know they're going to brush it under the rug, and I can't talk about Afghanistan every day because I'm not privy to all the atrocities. But the atrocities will come out, and when they say it's great the war is over, why didn't we end the war in Japan? It's been 75 years. Why didn't we end the war in Germany? It's been 75 years. We couldn't keep a contingency of support in that country almost indefinitely like we did in Japan and Germany. We couldn't do that because that would mean we're at war. And that's why these people are shallow. They get paid way too much, and I should have some of their money. And I want some of their money because they're going to lose their jobs anyway, and that's when they're really going to see how things work, because all these newscasters are always like, I can report on the news because I have a comfortable little bungalow in Manhattan somewhere. And, life is good for me because I'm making a very hefty salary. And they're not as good as me. And I don't care about money because it'll be worthless soon. But I do care that they're playing catch up with what I've already said. And they're talking about sweeping it under the rug. And they're talking about forgiving Petrie. And I don't forgive him. And he will never be forgiven. He would have to take a vow of silence for the rest of his life, move to Addis Ababa or the Sudan and bring peace to that area and feed 2 million people with his own grit and determination. Then I might forgive him, but that's not going to happen. So I don't have to worry about that. He's not forgiven. He's under the curse of my previous curse that you will see if you go back into my diatribes. And the curse is not a good one, and he's even worse off. So I'm disgusted, and nobody will really remember them. They'll get atrocities here and there, but see, with these smartphones, there's going to be a lot of footage of atrocities, and people are not going to be able to take it. If they had smartphones in Cambodia, people would be just like totally up in arms about what the hell's going on. And I'm really pissed that they say we ended the war. The Afghanistan war is over because every last troop has gotten out, and I'm worried about the people left there. I don't care if they're Afghanistan. I don't care if they're from Mongolia. I don't care if they're from America. I don't care if they're from South America. I don't care if they're from South Africa. I don't care if they're Taliban. I care about them. I mean, I care about the people that are destroying themselves too. You can have compassion, even if they're horrible people. And in a way, I should say, well, don't be a hypocrite. Okay, I have compassion for Petri Dish, and I hope that he makes it through his trillion lives of misery that he's bound to incur upon himself. I hope he does well with that. I really do. I wish him well. It's just going to be a short one. It's only 13 so minutes, and I said nothing. But I said that it is over. There's nobody at the airport. There's nothing for a big explosion to happen to. Oh, I'll say one more thing. Prognostication. Now, you know how the Taliban and the ISIS have a tendency to not punish the person right away, but to first punish his friends and family first in front of him, just to make him, really bad, and then make a lesson to others. So that's what they do. Now, put that in a more geopolitical scale. And let's just say that ISIS and Taliban, whether they're together or apart, decide they're going to inflict a little punishment on America. Do you think they're going to go for America first? Or do you think they might go for a friend of America just to send home the message that America was a treacherous, fiendish, betraying cur? And places like other countries that are our friends, NATO countries, will be terrorized. And America will be blamed. I don't care who the trigger man was. America will be the blame from the common people that can put two and two together and go, if they hadn't done this, this wouldn't have happened. And that's my prognostication, because I think Afghanistan is going to be a killing fields. We're not going to pay any attention to it. and I'm going to try to keep you updated as best I can. But the next 3 to 4 months are going to be so bad for America that we won't even have time to worry about the atrocities. So I still made it to 15 minutes, and it was pretty depressing. I'm sorry. But have a night, and try to keep a stiff upper lip. Okay. Bye.